Hi, I'm Govindh Jayaraman, and this is Paper Napkin Wisdom, episode 338, and another in our Edge of the Napkin series. Today, we're going to talk about Pillar 4, which is contribution. We have been developing the magnetic growth aura through these pillars since episode 330. And as you settle in today, you might notice that some ideas just don't need to be pushed, they simply need space to surface. Today, we're going to slow the conversation down just enough to notice what's really been shaping leadership momentum and results beneath the surface. Over the last few episodes, we've been exploring the magnetic growth aura, talking and looking at how confidence, congruence, and calm quietly influence the way people experience leadership, your leadership. And what's interesting is those pillars come into focus. Many leaders begin to sense that something else has been present all along, even if it hasn't always been named. And today we're going to talk about it. It's contribution. And it's not contribution as charity, not contribution as overgiving, but contribution as a force that expands capacity, builds encouragement, and creates momentum in most ways most organizations never fully understand. You might find yourself reflecting on moments when someone invested in you, not to rescue you and certainly not to control you, but in a way that left you feeling stronger, clearer, and more capable. And you may begin to notice just how often the most meaningful encouragement you've experienced didn't come from praise, but from truly being seen, challenged, and developed. In this episode, we'll explore why contribution is so often overlooked and why profit frequently follows it, but only when it's aligned with the other pillars, and why momentum accelerates when leaders learn how to give momentum away instead of trying to protect it. So, wherever you are, whether you're leading a team, building a business, or simply reflecting on what kind of leader you're becoming, allow yourself to listen for what resonates. Because sometimes the insight you didn't know you were looking for is already looking for you. Let's dive in. So, up until now, we've talked about confidence, congruence, and calm. Confidence gives people belief, congruence gives people trust, and calm gives people safety. But there is a fourth pillar, often ignored and mostly misunderstood, often dismissed as soft. And this pillar determines whether any of those actually multiply or slowly decay. And this pillar is called contribution. And here's the paradox: contribution is the pillar that most leaders say they value and the one they most consistently underinvest in. Because contribution can sound like charity. It can sound like it's the thing that comes after the thing. It sounds optional. It feels like and sounds like something you do after results. But in reality, contribution is the engine that creates momentum before results show up. So let's clear something up right away. Contribution is not being nice, avoiding accountability, and letting standards slide, giving without structure, or performing generosity for optics and for vanity's sake. That's not contribution, that's leakage. True contribution is the intentional act of expanding another person's capacity, not for control, not for credit, not for dependency, but because the system is stronger when people grow. Sounds like leadership, doesn't it? Contribution is capacity building, not rescuing. And that's where it connects to the other pillars. Contribution only works well when the other pillars exist too. So, contribution without confidence becomes insecurity. You give but secretly need validation. Contribution without congruence becomes manipulation. You give, but people can feel the strings that are attached. Contribution without calm becomes pressure. You give, but it feels performative or rushed or insincere. But when contribution is matched with the other three, confidence says, I have enough to give. Congruence says, this is real and means something to me. And calm says, there's no agenda. I'm here. Now, contribution becomes magnetic in that case. Now, people don't feel managed anymore, they feel seen. Most leaders misunderstand encouragement. They think encouragement is praise and positivity and motivation, but encouragement isn't emotional, isn't theatrical. Encouragement happens when someone leaves an interaction with you more capable than when they arrived. That's it. Encouragement lives at the intersection of feedback that extends capacity, belief that's grounded in faith and truth, and support that does not remove responsibility. Encouragement is not telling someone that they're great. Encouragement is helping someone see what they couldn't see and then trusting them to act. And that is contribution. So here's a story. There was once an orchard that produced an incredible fruit. Year after year, the trees delivered. The owners tracked the yield, profit, and efficiency. Everything looked strong, but slowly, without noticing, the soil began to weaken. The orchard still produced, but only because the trees were being pushed harder. One day, a new caretaker arrived. Instead of asking, how do we get more fruit? He asked, where does the water come from? He found a neglected well at the center of the orchard, unused, ignored, and taken for granted. He restored the well, not for the trees, not for the yield. Within 2 seasons, the fruit returned, richer, stronger, and more resilient. The contribution is the well. You don't see it on the P&L, but when it dries up, everything downstream suffers. So organizations are not built on outcomes alone, and this is where many leadership teams get it wrong. They design systems and organizations around measuring and keeping track of and posting KPIs, targets, profit growth, and every one of those things matter. But organizations that last are built around people development and outcomes, not one or the other. And here's the hard truth: an organization that produces results without developing people is borrowing from the future. And eventually, engagement drops, initiative disappears, leadership becomes positional, and turnover increases. Innovation slows, not because people are weak, but because capacity was never being expanded. Contribution is what keeps the future funded. Contribution is born in relationship, and you can't contribute to someone you're not connected to. And this is why feedback without relationship feels like criticism. Direction feels like direction without trust feels like control, and vision without connection feels like pressure. Contribution requires relationship density. It needs to be close. It needs to be tight. Not friendship, not emotional enmeshment, but real connection. The kind where you know what matters to someone, you understand their fears and their strengths, and you've earned the right to speak into their growth. Contribution is not transactional, it's relational. So, feedback that expands capacity lives in contribution. And this is one of the most overlooked leadership skills. Most leaders either avoid feedback to stay liked or weaponize feedback to establish control and power. Neither is contribution. Contribution based feedback names reality clearly, holds belief simultaneously, invites ownership, and leaves dignity intact. It sounds like, hey, here's what I see. Here's why this matters. Here's what I believe you're capable of. Here's the space I'm giving you to step into it. That feedback doesn't shrink people, it expands them. So, profit often follows contribution, but only when matched. And here's where many leaders get confused. They hear profit follows contribution and they think, hey, if we're generous, money will come. That's incomplete. Profit follows aligned contribution. Contribution without confidence becomes martyrdom. Congruence becomes signaling, and calm becomes chaos. In those cases, profit doesn't follow. It's not coming. Burnout does. But when contribution is paired with clear standards, strong boundaries, and ownership and accountability, then something powerful happens. People stay longer, they care more, they take initiative, they protect the culture and each other, and they solve problems before they escalate. And yes, profit always follows, not because you chased it, but because the system became healthier. So, contribution is often overlooked because it looks like charity from the outside. And weak leadership systems, that's exactly what it becomes. Contribution without structure looks like overgiving, rescuing, carrying underperformance for too long, avoiding hard conversations. That's not contribution. That's avoidance dressed up as kindness. Real contribution is demanding. It requires patience, presence, courage, boundaries, and consistency. It's easier to push for numbers than to grow humans, but it's also far more fragile. So here's another story. Was once a runner who was known for winning early. He would sprint ahead, build a lead, and guard it aggressively. No one caught him, but no one followed him either. One race, he tried something different. Instead of guarding his lead, he ran alongside others. He shared pacing, called out obstacles, and pulled others forward. People thought he'd lose, but something strange happened. The group accelerated, and so did he. By the final stretch, he wasn't alone. He was surrounded and unstoppable. Momentum multiplies when it's shared. Giving away momentum creates more of it. And this is one of the deepest leadership paradoxes. When you hoard momentum, you slow the system. You become the bottleneck and you exhaust yourself. When you give momentum away, others rise. Ownership spreads, capacity multiplies, and the system accelerates. Contribution is not loss, it's leverage. And the leaders who understand this stop asking, how do I stay ahead? And they start asking, who am I developing to run with me? So, contribution is a daily practice. It's not a quarterly initiative. It's not a rock. It's not a culture deck. It's not a value on the wall. It's practiced in moments. How you listen, how you correct, how you respond under pressure, how you invest attention, how you tell the truth. Every interaction either expands capacity or contracts it. There is no neutral ground. And the full magnetic growth aura comes alive here. When all four prisons pillars are present, when all four pillars are present, confidence gives belief, congruence gives trust, calm gives safety, and contribution gives momentum. And that's when leadership stops feeling heavy. That's when teams stop waiting to be told. That's when organizations stop relying on heroic effort. And that's when something rare emerges, a system where people don't just perform, they grow. So, contribution is not what you give to people, it's what you unlock in them with your presence. And the leaders who understand this don't just build results, they build futures. Make it a great day.